15 Facts about koalas. Dating history, diet and minimal brain. The appearance of koalas is deceptive. An angry animal in a rage is capable of attacking a person. Let's try to present a few more facts about these interesting animals. 1. Europeans first became acquainted with koalas in 1798. One of the employees of the governor of the colony of New South Wales, John Price, reported that in the Blue Mountains, they are located in the extreme southeast of Australia, an animal similar to a wombat lives, but it lives not in burrows, but in trees. 4 years later, the remains of a koala were discovered, and in July 1803, the Sydney Gazette published a description of a recently caught living specimen. 2. Koalas are not bears, although they are very similar to them. It was not just the appearance of the funny animal that contributed to the confusion. The first British settlers to Australia called the animal koala bear. It was difficult to expect ordinary literacy, let alone biological literacy, from former convicts and people from the lower classes of British society at the end of the 18th century. And scientists reached agreement that the koala belongs to the class of marsupials only at the beginning of the next century. 3. Koala is a very specific species in terms of biological classification. The closest relatives of the inhabitants of eucalyptus forests are wombats, but they, both in terms of lifestyle and biologically, are very distant from koalas. 4. Apart from nature reserves and zoos, koalas live only in Australia, and exclusively on its east coast and adjacent islands. The example of the koala clearly shows that Australians do not learn at all from the negative experience of the spread of animal species on the continent. Having burned themselves on ostriches, rabbits and even cats, in the 20th century they enthusiastically began to resettle koalas. They not only restored the population of these marsupials in the state of South Australia, which had declined due to deforestation. 5. The maximum body length of a koala is 85 centimeters, the maximum weight is 55 kilograms. The coat varies depending on the habitat. Its color varies from silver in the north to dark brown in the south. This gradation gives reason to assume that two different subspecies live in the north and south, but this assumption has not yet been proven. 6. The diet of koalas is unique. Not only does it consist exclusively of plant foods, vegetation is slowly and poorly digested, forcing the animal to devote most of the day to feeding. Koala's diet consists only of eucalyptus leaves, which are poisonous to all other animals. They contain terpene and phenolic compounds, and young shoots are also rich in hydrocyanic acid. It is surprising how koalas absorb tens of kilograms of such a hellish mixture, 500 grams 1 kilogram per day, without any harm to health. 7. The fact that a koala sleeps a lot and can sit on the same tree for days does not mean that the motor abilities of this animal are limited. Koalas simply have practically nowhere to rush. In nature, their enemies are theoretically dingoes, but to attack, the marsupial needs to get out into an open place, and the dog gets close. A koala can easily accelerate to 50 km per hour over short distances. During the mating season, males can arrange a bloody duel in which they will demonstrate sharpness and speed of reaction, in this case, under the arm, or rather, under sharp long claws. It is better not to get caught by a person. 8. Much more dangerous than external enemies of koalas are relatives and parasites. Many young male koalas die in fights with more experienced individuals or as a result of falls from trees, and they do happen. The large amount of cerebrospinal fluid in the skull is often explained by the need to mitigate a concussion when falling from a height. Many koalas suffer from pathogens that cause conjunctivitis, cystitis, sinusitis and other diseases. Even with a slight long-term decrease in temperature, koalas can develop pneumonia caused by a runny nose. Koalas even have their own analog of AIDS, the koala immunodeficiency virus. 9. The weight of the brain is only 0.2% of the total weight of koalas. Excavations, and the current size of their skulls, show that the brains of the ancestors of these animals were much larger. However, as the diet became simpler and enemies disappeared, its size became excessive. Currently, approximately half of the internal volume of the koala's skull is occupied by cerebrospinal fluid. 10. Koalas reproduce at approximately the same rate as they live. Sexual maturity occurs in the third year of their life, lasting only 12 to 13 years. In this case, females mate once every 1 to 2 years, extremely rarely bearing 2 cubs, usually 1. Males call them with pungently smelling gland secretions and characteristic calls. Pregnancy lasts just over a month. The baby is born very small, weighing just over 5 grams, and sits in the mother's pouch for the first 6 months. 11. Male koalas have unique vocal cords that allow them to make loud sounds of different tones. Just like in humans, the voice develops with age. Young males, when frightened or injured, emit cries similar to those of human babies. The cry of a sexually mature male has a lower timbre and is more informative. Scientists believe that the koala's screams can scare competitors and attract females. Moreover, the tone of the cry contains information, often exaggerated, about the size of the individual. 12. Koalas survived their own genocide. At the beginning of the 20th century, they were shot by the millions. The beautiful thick fur was so valued. Hunting was banned in 1927, but the population never recovered. Subsequently, several koala parks and even a special hospital were organized in Australia. However, due to climate fluctuations, human destruction of forests and forest fires, the koala population is constantly declining. 13. Private ownership of koalas is illegal throughout the world. Although there may be some kind of underground trade, the forbidden fruit is always sweet. But in order to see these marsupials, you don't have to fly to Australia. There are koalas in many zoos around the world. With proper nutrition and care, they live longer in captivity than in the wild and can live up to 20 years. At the same time, despite their low level of intelligence, they show touching affection for the staff, having fun or being capricious like little children. 14. By the end of the 20th century, the koala overtook the kangaroo as the animal symbol of Australia. In 1975, a survey conducted among tourists from Europe and Japan entering the continent showed that 75% of guests would first like to see koalas. Income from visits to parks and reserves with koalas was then estimated at $1 billion. The koala image is widely used in the advertising industry, show business and logos around the world. Koalas are characters in many films, television shows, cartoons and computer games. 15. In Australia there is a special wildlife rescue service. From time to time, its employees have to rescue animals that find themselves in dangerous or unfortunate situations. On July 19, 2018, the service crew went to the Happy Valley electrical substation of SAW Power Networks in South Australia. A koala got stuck in an aluminum fence that it could have easily crawled under. Rescuers easily freed the animal, which behaved surprisingly calmly. This calmness was explained simply the unlucky marsupial had already dealt with people. There was a tag on his paw saying that the koala had been rescued once before after being hit by a car.